welcome to the Vashon Heritage Museum History Talks for the month of November. Our talk tonight is on the language of the Puyallup tribe with Christopher Bryden. Keep in mind that if you have any questions during the presentation, please put them in the chat function and we will take those and answer questions at the end of the presentation. I'm Elsa Kronquist, the Executive Director at the Vashon Heritage Museum, and I'd like to start the evening by recognizing our sponsor for our history talk. Thank you to our sponsors for culture. At this time, I'd like to introduce Chris Austin, a museum board member and co-host of our talk series, to read the land acknowledgement statement. Chris?
Thank you, Elsa. The Vashon Heritage Museum stands on the ancestral lands of the Shobops or Swiftwater people who inhabited Vashon Maury Island for millennia. The Donation Land Claim Act encouraged large numbers of settlers to claim land even before the Medicine Creek Treaty of 1854 extinguished native claims to it. The Shobops were imprisoned on Fox Island during the Puget Sound Treaty Wars by the territorial government and later relocated onto the Puyallup Reservation. We acknowledge the people of the Puyallup tribes whose stewardship of and relationship with Vashon Maury Island continues today. We commit to amplify the voices of Indigenous people, making space for them to tell their own story, both past and present, in our exhibits and programs. Thank you. And back to you, Elsa.
Thank you. I'd like to read the Vashon Heritage Museum Inclusion Pledge. Next slide. The Vashon Maury Island Heritage Museum rejects racism, discrimination, and hate. Our purpose is to honor stories of love, oppression, action, and resilience. Stories that give voice to all, examine hard questions about social, economic, and environmental justice, and reveal racism and oppression within our heritage. We pledge that everything we do will honor the island's diversity of cultures and histories. And the next slide, please. So this is our last talk of the year. And we're so pleased to have you, Chris Bryden, with us. So join us on December 5th for our annual meeting, which will be held in person at the Percy Farsi Training Center at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And then after a brief business meeting, we will have a presentation on the work that is being done for the new galleries for the opening or reopening of the museum in July 2024, our new museum. And that will be presented by our project manager, Elisa Law. Chris, would you like to introduce Chris Bryden?
Yes, I would, but my screen is locked and I cannot read his bio.
Okay. Well,
Chris, would you like to share your screen and introduce yourself? I'm sorry to say.
Oh, it's no problem at all. Well, hello, everyone. I will share my screen now if I can remember how to do that. Oh, yes. Alrighty. Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Bachas Bryden. I'm a language teacher for the Puyallup Tribal Language Department. I'm trying to recall what I put in my bio. I grew up on the Puyallup Reservation and in Seattle, half and half, and I was lucky enough to hear Twelshotsid spoken by my grandpa. I was too young to actually learn it very well from him. I just wanted to know how to say Star Wars and Death Star and Darth Vader from him, and he wasn't interested in teaching me those things. Originally, I went to school for music. I was a music education major. I ended up failing that, but I ended up going into early music where I studied viola da gamba. I got my master's in early music with an emphasis on viola da gamba. Let's see, I concertized around the Puget Sound area and some in the Midwest as well. I eventually started taking Twelshotsid classes through the language department, and by the time I finished the series, they said, "Do you want to teach these classes?" And I was like, yeah, I definitely do. And so I got this job at the language department, and I felt really amazingly lucky because all through my life, when I just didn't want to do music or I didn't want to do my whatever job I happened to be doing at the time, I would occupy myself by studying Twelshotsi. I had some books, and I would hand copy books from the library because there were special collections, and I couldn't copy them or check them out. So I hand copied all these books, and suddenly I'm getting paid to do what I used to do in my free time. And so that's my job as a language teacher, and I'm really fortunate. I currently live in Federal Way, Washington with my husband and two cats. One of them is currently a ghost. I mean, that's the only explanation because there's no way that litter box fills up that much with just one cat. So I think she visits from the other side. Hey, I mean, yes, sorry, speaking Twelshotsi all day. So Elsa, should I continue with my presentation right now? Is that the plan?
Yes.
Alrighty. So I'm just going to go through my slides, and keep in mind, everybody, that these slides are as much for me to keep me on track as for you all. So you're going to see there's notes for myself in here. I need all the help I can get. So my native name is Lots Bachas. That means listens. Our language is really cool. It literally means listens to the cormorant for a specific purpose. So every little suffix changes the meaning just a little bit in there. So yeah, that's the name given to me by my grandpa. Hello, you can switch anytime now. There we go. Who am I? Said my name is Chris Bryden. Actually, I should do a full Twelshotsi introduction. I would say Ha slachel twelgwalapu Chris Bryden tidsta Puyallup chud uyayos chud twelti siayosari at Twelshotsi twelti Puyallup Asian. Roberta Bash tista atid skoi, Alan Bryden tista atid bod, Reuben Wright tista atid Puyallup sapa, Elmer Bryden tista atid postid sapa, Elaine Bryden tista atid snichu kayat, Rose Bryden tista atid pekuni kayat. So I said, hello, my name is Chris Bryden. I am Puyallup. I work for the Puyallup Tribal Language Department. My mother's name is Roberta Wright. My dad's name is Alan Bryden. My Puyallup grandpa's name is Reuben Wright, and he's actually here in the white shirt. My Blackfeet grandpa was Elmer Bryden. My Coeur d'Alene grandmother was Elaine Bryden, and who else is left? Oh yeah, my Blackfeet grandma was Rose Bryden from Browning, Montana. So this is, and the one in red here is me. That's my Uncle Ken, and this is the Puyallup River. I'm sure you all are familiar with that. And so I am actually quite a few different tribes, and this is true for a lot of natives all around the Northwest. These are the ones that I know of, but we definitely know of more. And so when I look at this list, I'm thinking, geez, that's a lot of languages I have to learn. The unknown European we think might be Croatian. The name Bryden supposedly traces its ancestry back to England, but those ancestors spoke Croatian, the immigrants to the Montana area. So there's some complicated history that I'm excited to look into there. Bear with me one second. I'm going to try to move my buttons out of the way here without muting myself or turning off my camera. There we go. Yeah, so that's all of my all the tribes that I know of. Come on. There you go. So the Puyallup tribe, as you talked about in the introduction, the Puyallup people actually come from all over the South Sound area, and we were gathered onto the reservation. So if you follow one branch of my Puyallup ancestors, they came from over here in Minter, and they're called the Schot-Ababsh. It literally means the ones who bite, and there's some history behind that. In the 19th century, it was a very difficult time for the Schot-Ababsh. First, they were attacked by Northerners from Canada, and let me start from the beginning. I apologize. They were known for education. They ran an academy at what is now Minter, and people from all around the Puget Sound area were sending their children there to be educated at this academy. And the Northerners attacked and took all the children as slaves. And then a wave of smallpox hit them, and they were just hit with such grief that they just burnt down the village, and they moved to what is now, I don't even know how you say this word, Wauna, I don't actually know. I've driven through it several times, but I've never actually stopped there. And so now Minter is a very nice piece of real estate investment. Luckily there's a house right where my ancestors lived that is for sale for $2 million. So that's good for them. My other branch, and sorry, another branch of my Puyallup ancestry actually doesn't even come from what we would consider today the Puyallup territory, but the what we call Scope. The Scope River is Green River, and it's the one that's moving there. Specifically, my ancestors came from this little pink box area that's called Burns Creek. We don't know the original name for Burns Creek yet. I haven't gotten to look into that that part of my ancestry. But most of well, I shouldn't say that. Many of the Muckleshoot people actually came from Scope right here, this Green River area, and many came from north, from this valley and from the Seattle area. Many of them have Duwamish ancestry. But the cool thing about this person, even though he was Squopobsh and came from this valley, his first language was actually Klickitat. So he was an Ichishkeen speaker. Ichishkeen, also known as Yakima, was usually spoken in the East and is associated with the people beyond the mountains. And so we were very multicultural in this area. My grandpa said that everyone, in order to get through your daily life, everyone needed to speak at least 5 languages. Oh, I have some and so this is an example of that multiculturalism. And if you go back to that list of all my ancestors, you can see why they needed to be so multilingual, because they were just intermarried the whole time. So my Pikuni ancestors are Blackfeet. It's kind of hard to see in this map, but they came from all the way over here in the 1950s. And then my Sneechuumsh, or Coeur d'Alene ancestry, comes from all the way over here. Now, the interesting thing about Coeur d'Alene is it is actually also a Salishan language. So they're related. And if you squint your ears really hard, you can't make anything out at all. It's so very different. But when you see the grammar, you're like, oh yeah, it's really ridiculously difficult also. It must be Salish. And so we go back. I was just there last month. We have really close ties, my family and the Coeur d'Alene people. It's just beautiful over there. So I work for the Puyallup Tribal Language Department. The Lashutsi at the top says Tisyayosadia to Twoshotsida to Puyallupab Shashid. These are all my coworkers, and they are all just amazingly brilliant, every one of them. I like to think of us as the super friends, and then sometimes somebody will point out more like super coworkers. Actually, I'm the one that says that, and it never gets old. So starting from here, this is Nicole Sutton. It turns out we are cousins. By cousins, I mean we have the same great grandpa, or is it great grandpa? This is Heather Williams. This is our director, Amber Hayward. This is, oh, come on, Irene McLeod. This is David Turnipseed. We are cousins as well, have the same great grandpa. And this is Chris Duenas. We are cousins. We have the same great grandpa. And this is Zalmai Aswali Zahir. We call him Zeke, or Aswali if we're speaking Twelshotsid. He has his doctorate from the University of Oregon. He grew up, excuse me, he is native, but not Puyallup by blood, but he did grow up on the Puyallup reservation with a very well-respected elder named Don Matheson, who happened to be my grandpa's best friend. They were such good friends. They went to, they were in World War II together, and when they came back, they married 2 sisters. One of them was my grandma, and one of them was my great aunt, my grandma's sister, Pauline. So that's my connection to the Sneechuumsh, the Coeur d'Alene tribe. So those 2 sisters were Coeur d'Alene. And so he's basically my uncle as well. And so he is married into, well, I won't get into the family politics, but yeah, that makes him my uncle. So several of us in the department are related. We all have amazing, different, well, I'm not going to talk about saying what I do is amazing. I just can't believe they haven't fired me yet, but they say I'm good, so I'll keep doing it. But everybody here is amazing. She is a planner. She plans everything. He's the media guy. He knows how to do anything on a computer. She is the amazing teacher. He's like computer brain. She's a great administrator, and so is Irene. Between the two of them, they can throw up any kind of plans, whether they be lesson plans or some kind of convention. The two work together just to bang all this amazing stuff out. So they're all very talented people. Okay, next slide, Chris. Talking to me. So Stabtri Twelshotsid. What is Twelshotsid? So there are different names for Twelshotsid, first of all. How do I phrase this? So first of all, there are two different dialects. So right about at the line of, well, right around here is the dividing line between northern Lashutsid. Excuse me. Haven't even eaten anything. How can I have the hiccups? And then south of here, obviously, is southern Lashutsid. And originally, we didn't have one name for all the languages in the Puget Sound. We just said, I speak Puyallup, and I can understand the Suquamish. I can understand the Tulalip a little bit less. So we didn't have one name. And my grandpa just called it either speaking Puyallup or speaking Indian. Well, in the 1950s, 60s, around there, a linguist named Tom Hess, he came up with the term Lashutsid to refer to all of them. Prior to that, they just called it Puget Salish. And it also, yeah, I'll just leave it there. Puget Salish is what they called us. And the reason that he chose this was really very diplomatic because, like I said, everybody had different names for it. So he chose a word that, what it is a simplification of what the Northerners called their language. They, in the Northern dialect, they called their language Lashotsid. Sorry, I can't get over my Southern accent. Okay, I'm going to do a Northern accent right now. Lashutsid. There it is. Lashutsid. And so because this prefix is difficult for English speakers, he just dropped it. And by choosing a word that is native to no dialect, everybody could agree upon it. And so that's the name for both dialects. Some other names are Twelshotsid. Twelshotsid, this is the one that we chose for ourselves. My grandpa called it this one, Puyallup Shotsid. The Nisqually call it Squally Shotsid, or then Muckleshoot call it Buckleshootsid, or we can just call it speaking Indian. People call it that as well. I was going to say something. I reminded myself of something. The primary difference between these two dialects is that in the north, you have a lot of ooh sounds. In the south, it's more of a ooh sound. It's almost like a o sound, but it seems like you drop your jaw more. The way my grandpa said ooh, Puyallup is the way he said the word Puyallup, Puyallup, like a ooh sound. I was going to say something else too. Oh, well, I should have written myself a note. Also, I'd like to remind anybody that if you have any questions, please write them in the chat about this map, as it does not address just how my internet connection is unstable. That's not good. So, I stick with you all, I think is how you say it in Twelshotsid. And another branch of my family comes from here. And who would have been 1, 2, 3 great-great-grandpa, one of my great-great-grandpas was from here, and he spoke Skokomish. And it's a very similar language, but different. Oh, okay, I guess we're moving on. I didn't realize I click the button. So how do we teach the language? My primary job at the language department is my online classes. We teach primarily adults. And the reason for that is that over the years of language revitalization, people before us discovered that if you just focus on teaching children, it doesn't work to revitalize your language. There are some people who say that it doesn't work at all, but I'm not familiar enough to say 100% that it never works. But it's a little bit counterintuitive. And the reasons for that are that it turns out if children don't have anyone with whom to speak at home, they will only speak it at school. They will pass your tests with flying colors, but they don't internalize it because as soon as they leave the classroom, there's no incentive for them to speak it. They don't see it, they don't hear it. The language doesn't have a presence on the land or in their home. And so what we're trying to do is get adults speaking the language in their home. And it's working really, really well. I think we were down to just a handful of speakers, I think between 3 and 5 in the 90s, I believe it was. And now we're up to around, but we're estimating around 500 speakers. And we define a speaker as someone who speaks the language for more than an hour a day, an hour or more. Yeah, so this is one of my classes. And you might recognize from, I believe it was a couple years ago, this is my sister Charlotte Bash. She did a presentation on Vashon Mori Island. Yeah, and I really love her. She's my favorite. No, I can't say that. I love all my siblings. Alrighty, I'm gonna move on. Another way we do actually teach in the classroom as well, and it turns out because of the combination of having adults speaking the language around them and having it in their school, people who have never taken our classes, students, who I guess they're people too, students who have never taken our classes can actually hold short conversations. If you look at this little poster over here with the emojis on it, one exercise that I like to do with students every once in a while for various events at Chief Leshai School, what that says is, I use this poster. What it literally says is, how are you? Ascheidcha. That's what that says. And then they answer me by giving me answers in Twelshotzid. And some students were able to answer me who had never been to our classes just because they hear it so much in the school. So I think we're having some success by teaching the adults, because it's infiltrating down into the students. Also, we have teacher classes. Now, at this time, this was, I believe, in 2020, before the pandemic, we would actually go into the school and teach Chief Leshai teachers these conversational skills and various other techniques that we use. Since then, this young man over here with whom I am in the picture actually turned on us, and he actually became one of those teachers. Sorry, still a little salty about him. And it turns out he's my cousin too. But it turns out that he found his niche there in the school, so we don't go to the school anymore. He's at the school teaching the teachers and the students. So he's doing very, very well over there. And I think that's part of the reason that the language is really flourishing there. Like I said, even to people we have not directly taught. Another way that and I'll talk more about this later on, but what we tried to do is create a nest in this classroom. And I don't necessarily mean a nest where you can't speak English, because a lot of the students were beginners, but in our daily lives, we see our dominant language all around us at all times. We see English all around us. So where I live in Federal Way, you see Korean around you all the time. You hear it spoken all the time. You don't see much Twelshotzid. And so what we tried to do is create a space where you see it, you know it exists there. And it like I said, it really works throughout the school. This is our classroom, but it's actually all throughout Chief Leshai School. It's in their restrooms. It says Stobsh for men, Sadite for women at the restrooms, etc., etc. And this is not me, by the way. I wish I were that good looking. That's my ex-coworker, Archie Cantrell. He found another job. He's a very talented teacher as well, but he became the what is it, Title VI liaison, something like that. I can't remember. The Indian Education Liaison for Puyallup School District, I believe. Yeah, one of my favorite people also. We're not related, actually. Oh, wait. Yeah, we are. So I was talking about creating a place for a Twelshotzid. And again, creating a place for the language also creates a place for Puyallup people, including children. It's no mystery, it's no surprise that Native kids have a lot of difficulty getting through school. There's a lot of crime, there's a lot of drug abuse. And there are studies that show that creating a homeland, creating a sense of place for Native students helps them succeed and has better outcomes, even better health outcomes. And so this is one of the ways that we tried to create a place around Puyallup land for Puyallup people. So for example, at every event, we try to be present. This is one event that I did, trying to get the young people to listen, and adults to listen to what's going on around them. Turns out Lashutsit is a very onomatopoeic language. Excuse me. Um, and so this was down at our landing where we land our canoes next to the water. So I was trying to get the kids to identify with the sounds that they heard around them and tell them that they've been speaking Toshotsi the whole time. That when they listen to the salt water is saying its name. So if you look at the first one there, it says Huoch. That's the word for the salt water. And that's because that's the sound that the salt water makes when it hits the beach. So it's literally saying its own name. It's saying Huoch. Huoch. If you look at the second one, it says Shahwab. The B suffix it's a grammatical suffix, but so the root is shah, shah. So the wind says its own name, and so that's one way we're trying to create a sense of place for our students. Another is by renaming things. So I can't remember what the name of this elementary school was originally, but it became Halilts. Literally means, oh, what? I can't remember what that means. White rock. Halilts. Is that what that means? Halilts. Marked rock, I think is what that would really mean. I should have really looked into that before I put it up there. I apologize for that. I believe my sister had a part in, before she moved to another job, my sister Charlotte had a hand in renaming this. Also, we have, I was going to say plant signs, excuse me, yard signs that we put up everywhere. And these ones showed up in a school. I think it's, Waller Elementary, I want to say. And you see, these are all the art on these were done by native Puyallup people, and with Puyallup phrases. This one right here, the blue one, where's my cursor? I don't know if you guys can actually see my cursor, but the blue one here, it says Kwafwalek, Abalek. Sorry, I got them out of order. It says Obo Ob, Kwafwalek, Abalek. Those are our three virtues. That means be kind, be sharing, be helpful. Those are three cardinal virtues, well, for Puyallup people, but also for our office. That is, those basically, you can boil all of our mission statement down to those three words. And it works. It's been working because we came to work one day. We looked out our window. This picture was taken from the window of our office, the one in the middle, and it says, Ha Slachel. That means good day. And then down below, it says, Hoi. And it's not really graffiti because this road was under construction, so it got covered up by concrete, but it's still there. But it was so refreshing to see that somebody out there was using Twelshotseed and thought to just write it. So we were talking about that, like, well, can we pay people to tag stuff in Twelshotseed? I mean, that is a way of placing the language around the tribe. So that was really fun to see. Excuse me one second, I have to take a drink of. If you put your wine in a coffee cup, it makes it look like you're drinking tea. I'm just joking. It's chai tea. Another thing that I do besides teaching is I like to research Twelshotseed. I grew up speaking, sorry, I didn't speak Latin or Greek, but I studied Latin and Greek and Sanskrit when I was younger. And those languages have been studied for literally thousands of years. And so when you study a language that has only been studied by the Western world for the last maybe 200 years, there's so much to discover. And so if you look on the left here, whoops, not what I was talking about. Yeah. So if you look on the left here, there are a lot of sources for animal names, and some of them were written by people who didn't have a good command of the language, didn't have a good ear, and so they're not very reliable. And some were written by people who could speak the language even. Like if you look at the orange column here, it says Don Bates, the Lashutsi Dictionary. This was compiled with Vi Hilbert Otsisia, who was one of the people that is responsible for keeping the language alive. She's one of the people, she and Tom Hess, excuse me, created this dictionary, but also just started recording first language speakers from the north to the south of the Puget Sound. And so it's through her that the language really continued and did not die out in the 80s. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, it's right in front of me. And so what I tried to do was find as many sources of animal names as I could, and you start to see some cool patterns. Um, another way, another thing that I thought was really was that they did not pay attention to what we in the Western world think of as important things. For example, like mammals, amphibians, reptiles, insects, all that we learn like all throughout our life. They classified things in two broad categories. If you look up here, Tata Chalbu and Tit Chalbu. And it had to do with the way that you hunted or gathered these animals. For example, to hunt Tata Chalbu needed a lot of skill and needed a lot of strength to draw a bow far enough to get enough for elk hide. It's really difficult to do that. I haven't done it myself. For one, I'm not very strong. And it just took so much more energy. There's even a different word for somebody who hunts big game than small game. So chob is to hunt big game. And then a teachalbu can be done just with traps and whatnot. But also you could subdivide this depending on where you found the animals. So guashko, for example, means of the water. So for example, a tatad chalbu guashko would be something like a whale, whereas a teachalbu guashko would be like a frog or a beaver. And so what you see is like you have categories that don't look like they make any sense, like muskrat, frog, salamander, beaver. And so you're like, what is the reasoning? Because it has nothing to do with them being mammals and all that, but it actually is a very well thought out system that has to do with how the people related to that animal, where they found it. Yeah. The other thing, and that was fun, but what I really, really liked was creating this plant list. There's a note for myself. Remember that this picture is a hyperlink. I can't remember. Oh, it's not letting me hyperlink it though. There we go. Uh-oh. Well, that's not working. So I'm actually gonna, oh no, did I break it? Oh, it is working. Okay. So I am still compiling a plant list. And it was just for a long time, it was just a spreadsheet that I had open. And it happened during the pandemic because I didn't want to get fired. So I wanted to keep working, but I didn't want to be indoors anymore. And so I would go hiking a lot. And so I just started making videos. I say vidjas in class because it's entertaining and I try to be relatable and all that stuff. But and so I'd make little videos saying, and this is a blackberry, and this is a strawberry. And those videos are down here. And maybe we can watch one. I think we might have time. But the point of this was that oh, come on. Where the product of this was this list that now has 179 entries on it. And you can't see it here. Let me see if it'll do it. No, it's not letting me show you the pictures. Oh, that's not me. That's my cousin coworker Christopher Duenas. There used to be pictures. Maybe they just did not load. That if you clicked on this, oh well, no pictures. Interesting. That's good to know. They were there yesterday. And let's see. So this is just let's see, how does he have this arranged? This is new. This is 2 days old, so I'm still trying to get used to this also. Huh. This is not the way it looked yesterday when I checked it out. So that's good to know. Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, actually let's watch one of these. They're only like a minute long. This is the very first one I did, I believe.
Kaisab Padhadabil, flowers of springtime.
Dichty quilt. This is skunk cabbage. Quilt. Skunk cabbage.
Dichtit Kaisab Atahwadats. This is the flower of the Indian plum. Dichtit Kaisab Ahwalch. This is the flower of the wild ginger. Dichti Kalubas Huathuat. This is Trillium. Kalub
Sounds like I
Aswatwikwad
had a
literally means eye of the
sounds
earth.
like I had a cold there.
Dichtit Kaisabat Chibadats. These are the flowers of the hawthorn tree.
Dichtit Kaisab Apayakad. These are the flowers of the
Okay,
red
that's enough. I
flowering
don't like the
currant.
sound of my own voice because in my head I have this booming, manly bass voice, and then like I hear those, and I'm like, that's not how I sound. Let me continue. I just looked at what time it is. PowerPoint, slideshow. So another thing that I'd like to research is oh yeah. So we found, well, recordings. I like to hear actual first speakers. The earliest recording we have is from 1941, and I'm just going to play a quick sample of that. Oh, nope, 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 nope. I have to leave here, go over here. It's from 1941, so I'm just going to play one sentence from it, given the time. Oh, or not. Well, so Elon is not working today. It's, I guess the ancestors didn't want to be on Zoom today. So that's the way we always look at it when something doesn't really work right. Oh, ancestors didn't want that to happen. And also it lost my presentation. So that's great. Lost my place here. Excuse me. Sorry, now the buttons are in the way. There we go. But this particular recording that I'm working with now was really cool because nobody has heard it for the last 75 years. It was recorded in, I can't do the math, I think 1941, I believe. And so it's cool to be able to listen to a first language speaker, a recording that nobody's heard since it was made. And in this recording, he actually says, "Why do you want me to tell it in Indian? No one's going to be able to understand me." Well, I don't try to make it a habit to say that an elder was wrong, but he was wrong. People can understand it. And so this is my transcription of that. It's a really dark story about an ogress that eats children. It's pretty gory. Very early on in my work here at the Puyallup Tribal Language Department, I was really interested in the waterways, because as a child, I was always playing in ditches, trying to catch things. And it turns out those ditches were waterways that the ancestors used to travel in. I have not put the original course of the Puyallup Valley on here, river, excuse me, but it wound all around here. And you see, originally the main channel took a quick left over here. And one theory is that the word Puyallup is named after this bend because Puy means bend, Allup means at the bottom. That's one theory. Other people think it means something else. And I can't say anybody's right or wrong. I live over here. And so I created this PowerPoint really for myself, not this PowerPoint, a different PowerPoint for myself. I went around and I took pictures of everywhere the main roads crossed one of these waterways or rivers. And for the last, geez, I guess it's been 7 years now. Every time I cross one, I have to say its name so that it knows that somebody out there at least knows that it's still there. So if anybody has ever been to Fife and gone to Pickwick, that little stream that goes by, it's called Speckholz. And Speckholz was the name of they call it a Wapato potato, which is why it's called Wapato Creek. Also, the name Speckholz, today we use it to mean a regular potato. So there's a stream out there called Potato, and Pickwick has wonderful fries. So you see, it all came full circle. And you see, all this green used to be mud and tide flats. And they used to say when the tide went out, the table was set because clams and gooey ducks out there. Okay, I'm going to push ahead because of time. In addition to teaching, we do stuff that is not necessarily directly teaching the language. And I'm going to go into these a little bit and kind of quickly. So one big thing is Ohoyabab. We storytell. And what we do is we get a story that from one of the old speakers. They're usually too long. We might abridge it a little bit. And tell these stories to our tribal members in the Spirit House at Kwahwachi, at PTHA. And you see, I am wearing antlers. I'm an elk. I'm also the skunk in this one and this one. I'm about to get burnt in the butt with a giant red hot rock right there. Excuse me. It was very hot in that outfit. Alrighty. Boot boot lachi bead. That literally means raising our hands to somebody, and that's what we do. You might see Indians do that a lot around here. Boot boot lachi bead. It literally means I'm raising my hands to you, and this is something we do a lot to when we have guests coming in from different areas, different tribes. These people were coming from Hawaii, and so me and some of my coworkers and friends sang them in on the beach. That was a beautiful time, and then we had like a all day ceremony in the what is it, the old, oh, the Maritime Museum. Yeah, it was a beautiful event. Exchanged gifts and it was amazing because it was a very traditional um ceremony, both in both Polynesian and native cultures. It was just all about gift giving and praying and singing to one another, for one another, I should say. It was wonderful. Um, Canoe journey, not job, but all of my coworkers were involved in this. And you might recognize my sister Charlotte, who gave the presentation about Tacho before. This was some of our canoe family, the ones that were present at Suquamish. Down here was a big deal. This is what they call protocol, and it lasts for a whole week, 24 hours a day. All the different canoes, all the canoe families that came sing and present, and we also did a storytelling. And this is really meaningful for us Native people because, especially, I know on my reservation, when we were put on the reservation, our canoes were smashed and burnt, and we were forbidden from ever making them ever again because we were meant to be farmers, and that's it. Well, all the canoes were gone for several decades, and one elder, he's passed away now, was telling my mother that when he was a kid, there were canoes everywhere in the Puget Sound, and this is in Suquamish, and he would sit on the bluff in Suquamish and watch the canoes come and go. And then for 50 years, there were no canoes. Well, there were 112 canoes that came to Suquamish when it hosted. Was it a host? Actually, they didn't host. They were a pit stop. But 112 canoes came, not even to the main event, but to a pit stop in that very spot where the elder said no canoes had been for 50 years. And this is a wake. This is our family's canoe. Her name is Swaq-sub. That means lightning. And see, we were out of the water, and I'm right there. That was terrifying. It lasted for maybe 2 seconds, but it felt like an hour up in the air. And when you hit, it's like, man, you really wish you had more padding in your behind when you come down off a wake like that. And that's not even a big wake. People on the oceans, out on the coast, that's nothing to them. So my hands are up to them. Oh, here's Swap Sub also, with her little wreath of cedar. She's beautiful. She's resting now. We put the canoes to sleep in the wintertime. We do a lot of jams. This is a big deal. This is my crew. Actually, it's not the present crew. This is Archie and Swilla, who are no longer with. Actually, these three people are all gone. I'm gonna forego us. Well, actually, singing is pretty nice. Everybody always wants to hear singing, so I'm gonna let us hear some singing. Oh no, not that. Ooh, not my face. Maybe it's this one. I'm only gonna play a few seconds of this. Ooh, that actually brings back, I didn't realize that was the start of the pandemic. That was our last day of work before the pandemic hit. Oh, why is it not opening my, there we go. It's taking a second to think. And so we sang this for our community. It's the strengthening song to give everybody strength as we were going into lockdown, and we shut this door and we didn't come back for a long time. That was something that happened. Come on. Oh, it's thinking. There we go. Oh, no. It's because it was going to the hyperlink. I'm so sorry. I have forgot that I made it a hyperlink. I only just learned how to do that. We have to do land acknowledgements a lot. And so what we ended up doing was making a video that people can just play if they want a land acknowledgement, because it was really honestly getting in the way of our teaching, which is our main focus. So we created this video, and I wish I had chosen a different section of that video. That's the first clip that comes up. So yeah. Yeah, so whenever we have an event, we have a land acknowledgement, say where we're from, and all of that. Let's see. I just saw what time it is, so I'm going to push ahead a little bit. So the line between like teaching and outreach is a little bit blurry. This again is the Earth. This is an Earth Day event where I'm out trying to get Tulshotseed. I've worked a lot with Pierce Conservation District to get plant names for their native plant sales, and so they gave me a cute little award. It was wonderful. It was great to be to have the language acknowledged at their event. This is a Pride event where I gave a prayer. For anybody who's interested, we don't really have any vocabulary for LGBTQ people or issues. And our theory about that is they didn't find the need to classify us LGBTQ people. We just used words like brother, sister, and daughter rather than special vocabulary. And also, this picture down here represents jams. We consider jams to be outreach. Also, we're trying to get people's ears open to the language, and to us as people. We want them to know that we are safe people, that they can make mistakes in front of, because teaching adults is really challenging because people don't want to make mistakes. Well, we think, well, maybe if we can should prove to them that we're nice people, they won't be so scared to make mistakes and they'll want to learn from us. So that's the thinking there. Oh, that was the last slide that I had about really me, but I wanted to show you our website and our social media. So I'll show you our website here in a second, but oh, come on. Oh, no, that is the last one. Huh, I thought I put a slide about our Instagram and all of that. I apologize that I did not, but I do already have the our website up here. Looks like this. This is the page you land on. And if you want to find out about us or what Tulshotseed is, you can click on this. There's some good information there. But right now, given the time, I'm going to go to Get Started. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can learn here. All of this, once you click on it, has so much good information. Yeah, and the basics, because that's where people usually start. It's thinking, little things going around and around. If anyone is interested in Tulshotseed, I would recommend starting here. This is all the important stuff, excuse me. And once you kind of start working through this stuff, you can start building a language nest in your home by using what we call domains. This is our main goal, our vehicle of teaching the language, is that instead of the way I learned languages, mainly because I learned dead languages like Latin and Greek, was by memorizing words. I love lists, so it worked well for me, but most people don't. And so what we use are domains. These are events that you're going to be doing anyway, like well, yes, and so you use one of these while you're brushing your teeth or washing your hands or in the restroom going number 1 or 2. We have domains for that. You narrate yourself. That counts as speaking Tulshotseed. And you can, our students, you can tell students who do these every time and those who might not do it every single time. But this is our main vehicle of conversation. Sorry, I shouldn't say main. It's one of our vehicles of conversation. The other one, of language learning. Our other one is actually conversation, is that rather than learning lists of stuff, we start out day one having conversations with people saying, in this case, Stab quad so asad. What did you eat today? Or the literally says, what did you eat? And chud ata. And you can teach this. We found ways to teach this using no English on the very first day, and the students can respond to us. Their pronunciation might be a little bit sloppy and questionable, but that's fine. They're speaking Tulshotseed on the first days of class, and it works. And so our students we used to have conversation hours where people just speak Tulshotseed for an hour. It was pretty amazing. So I'm looking at the time here, so I'm going to wrap up and maybe we can start the question and answer period. So I'm not sure how that actually works. I'm going to hand this back over to Elsa maybe for some moderation. I mean, to moderate is what I meant, I guess. Or is it Chris?
It's Chris.
Okay, Chris.
Wonderful lecture. Thank you so much. We do have some questions. First one here is, what is the difference between Twashut seed and Lushut seed?
Oh yeah. So as I was talking before, originally it was called Puget Salish, and every community had its own dialect and way of talking about their language. And so there was no consensus, and they didn't really need one really. They just knew that they could speak with each other, and that was good enough. And so I even had somewhere around here, I had a book that's still called Puget Salish, and it's from the 1960s. And so Tom Hess took the word for the northern dialect, Lashutzid, and cut off the prefix and made it the name for the whole language. That way, there was no favoritism. Because if we called it Lashutzid, people from the southern Puget Sound would be like, that's not what we call our language. And even today, different tribes still call their language different things. We have lots of friends over at the Suquamish language program, for example, who call it Soquab Shotzid, the language of Suquamish. Hey.
Okay. Are the languages north of the border on Vancouver Island also related? Can you understand them, or are they too different than the southern dialect?
It depends on what language you're talking about. About 2 months ago, I went to Whistler, and I can understand everything. It is so, their language is so similar to ours. Basically, where we have a B or a D, their language would have an M or an N. But beyond that, I could understand everything. Now, on the other side of the island, there's more Halkmalum languages, and they are quite a bit more different, but you can still hear some similarities in there. And then on the far side of the island and the north side of the island, you get totally different, unrelated language families up there. I believe they're Wakashan languages, and I can't remember what the other language family is up there. But there are Salish languages north of the border, and you can understand them to an extent. That was a
Okay.
great question.
I got a listener here. It says, I looked in many sources, but could not find the indigenous name for Vashon Island and Maury Island. It is only known as the land of the Shwabopes, or did it have its own proper name?
Tacho. Tacho is I'll put it in the chat here. I don't know if everybody can see this chat, but I'll spell it using our script. Nope. I have to change my keyboard. Tacho. That character at the end that looks like a question mark, that's a glottal stop. So you cut it off in your throat. Tacho. And that, as far as we can tell, that referred to both Vashon and Maury Island as a unit. And Dagwalas, that's the name of a quartermaster harbor. And it literally means what does that mean? Dagwalas, the water inside. Something like oh, you're not seeing it. I'm so sorry. Okay, yeah, I apologize. You can't see that all. Oh, that's to the hosts and panelists. Maybe if I put it in the Q&A. Let me try this. Oh no, it's not letting me. I apologize. So I'm sorry I can't show you how we write it. But Dagwalas, what's that?
Hi, it's Elsa. You can put this, you can change the chat so that you can speak to everybody.
Oh, okay.
Everyone. You to everyone.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see what you're saying in this one. Everybody. There we go. And you know, I use Zoom a lot, and I did not know that, to be honest. Dagwalas means water on the inside. Hey, Quartermaster Harbor, which is beautiful, by the way. We that one of our canoe journeys, our most recent canoe journey, one of the stops we made was at in Lashutzid. It's called Kokot. What's it called? Jensen Beach, I think. And Kokot literally means the madrona trees. And today there's only one left, but so it was nice to go visit the land of that used to belong to the madrona tree and his family there. So it was nice to pay respects to him.
We have another
Yeah.
question.
Okay, good.
How do you speak when the word is modern? For example, computer.
Oh yeah. So Lushootseed is a really cool language in that two things. It is an analytical language, and so we tend not to have. We do have words for things, but usually a word for a thing describes what the thing does. For example, a chair is called a sahguadil. That means by means of putting yourself down. Um, uh, a fork is a taqadisabad, the thing for putting it in your mouth. And so with that in mind, we can use another feature of our language, which is that our language likes to use suffixes and different prefixes. And you can create entire sentences that are just a bunch of suffixes and prefixes stuck to a root. And so with that in mind, you can create all kinds of words for things that we didn't have back in the day. For example, here we call it a safwaslachtubut. That means the thing for reminding yourself. That's what it is. No, the thing for remembering for yourself. That's what it is. But it's also kind of cool because it shows what is important to you about the computer. So my office calls it Safweslachtubut, but our family up north in the Tulalip language department call it a Safhalalek. That means the by means of continuously writing. And so you can tell like what is it you're using your computer for. Yeah. And then a word for a car, for example, is a sahwabolch, which literally means the run fast or move fast container. Yeah, that was a great question. Thank you.
Chris, what advice might you have for a non-native person interested in learning a bit of Lushootseed or Lushootseed? Where to start? Is there a particular link on the website you'd recommend?
Yeah, so the one I showed you all, so puyalluptriballanguage.org. I'm going to put that here. Puyallup triballanguage.org, and click on the Get Started, and then go to Basics. Yeah, that would be my recommendation. It starts with the alphabet and then like simple words that you can use, and then once you get a handle on the alphabet, you can start working on domains. Again, we put a heavy emphasis on reading our language, which is very different than a lot of language, Native American language revitalization projects, because we want people to be speaking at home, and a lot of people don't have people at home with whom to speak. But by being able to read it, you can speak on your own by using your domains. Yeah, so yeah, puyalluptriballanguage.org.
Wonderful. Does Sklallam overlap with the Puyallup language?
It's very similar. I'll put it that way. There are probably different opinions about how related they are, but you can. Oh, Sklallam. I'm sorry. I'm just going to go. Gosh, let me see. Different languages are related at different degrees. Klallam is a little bit less related than Skokomish, for example, or apparently Squamish, the language of Whistler, the Whistler area. I have studied some Klallam as well, and there are some sentences sound the same. For example, if you want to say, I ate salmon. In Twashotsid, it's O Aslidchud at the Stjadad. In Klallam, it's O Islinson at the Stjanan. So very similar. Some sentences are very similar. Other stuff, like for some reason, there's some grammar that they have that is just completely different than ours. And I'm fascinated as to whether or not that came from the proto language or if that was an innovation on their part or something that, it was an innovation on our part. Yeah. So they're grammatically, they're some similarities. I'll put it that way. Some similarities.
Okay. How easy is it to understand the various dialects of Salish language if you speak just one of them?
I don't have a whole lot of experience with many different Salish languages, but basically, I think it's an operation of distance. The farther you get from your starting point, the more and more different the languages are. So I started trying to study, it's somewhere here, the Coeur d'Alene language, Snitchu. It's so different. It's ridiculously different. However, you still keep finding little things that are similar. For example, Puyallup, that suffix obsh means people of, and they're called the Snichu umsh. So the obsh and the umsh are cognates. You find little things like that, but really the sound changes took such a big effect that things are not necessarily uh, recognizable. Like I said, our languages were analytic. That would change depending on your situation, because something might be an aspect of something might be more important to one person than another. And so that might make over time a huge difference in vocabulary. But the grammar tends to be similar. Yeah.
Let's see. What classes are available to Vashon Islanders?
Oh, you gosh, that's a really good question. At this time, I don't think we have any classes on Vashon Island, and our Lashutsi classes right now they are at capacity for Puyallup tribal members. This is one of the kind of the awkward conversations that we have to have a lot. Was that because we're the Puyallup Tribal Language Department, our mandate by our council is to service Puyallup tribal members first. And right now, we don't really have any of the capacity to move out into other communities. But that's a really good question, and maybe it's something that can happen in the future. That would be really fun, actually. I would love that. Ferry ride.
Yeah, yeah. How may I share this video with Spokane and Sinixt people?
Oh gosh. Um, I'm sorry. I guess I don't understand the question. Are you asking for permission, or actual technical
I don't know.
advice?
I don't know
Yeah.
exactly. But it
Hmm.
goes on to say also in 1969, Zeke was my neighbor. He built me a
Oh.
little chair out of a scrap wood.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I love that. Give me 1 second, please. Mm, I love that. But speaking of the Spokane tribe, is anybody familiar with the Salish School of Spokane? They are an amazing, uh, fully independent school teaching the Spokane language, which is also a Salish language, and we have shared a lot of information. And if anybody is eager to give support to anyone, they are definitely a deserving foundation. It was really amazing walking into the school and seeing probably about close to 100 kids all speaking Spokane. Yeah, it was beautiful. I was like, who's chopping onions? You know.
Where can non-native people learn Lashutseed in person?
Oh, the University of Washington has classes. Um, yeah. She's a wonderful teacher as well. There's also what's called the Multilingual Institute. That actually is also run by Zeke. I'm going to put that in here. Multilingual Institute. I don't know his institute. I discovered recently, as I get older, that I can't talk and type at the same time. I used to be younger, everybody. Um, so our language consultant Zeke also runs this multilingual institute where he teaches a few different languages and has different teachers for different languages. Not all of them even native languages, I believe. Yeah, so that would be a good place to start now that I think of it. Yeah.
Well, we have a lot of
Oh, but
compliments
you asked
for
in
you.
person. Yeah.
Uh,
Oh,
people, people love the lecture. They love your flower talks. We have a gentleman or
oh,
a person here. This has been a great introduction to so much of what the tribe is accomplishing, and please do pursue that Croatian connection. There are very strong ties between the Swiftwater people and the Croatian immigrants, particularly in Gig Harbor area. And I've been trying to emphasize that among my fellow Croatians, so let me know if you need assistance. That was nice.
oh, yeah. It'd be nice to learn an Indo-European language for once. So yeah, I'm excited about that.
Well, what do you think, Elsa? Have you got any other questions?
Well, let's see. If there aren't any more questions, I just want to say thank you. This was really very interesting and entertaining. Your classes, your students must just love you, Chris. And I don't know about anybody else, but I on mute here, I was practicing the language when you were saying things I was repeating after you. So it's a
Oh,
beautiful language, beautiful sounds. I love hearing your voice. So if there's anything else or nothing
Nope.
else, then
I got one
Okay.
more kind of snuck in
Okay.
here, Elsa. Is there any place to learn more about the history or stories of Vashon?
Gosh, I think your best bet would be to contact the Puyallup tribes, excuse me, the Puyallup tribes historic preservation department. I know that there was a lot of research done with having to do with Gig Harbor and Tacho, Vashon Mori Island, because those were considered to be a unit of people, the Squababsh. And so when we were asked to do, I believe it was, I can't remember what year it was. We were asked for a place name for the park there that was called Twalkach. Not me, but my sister Charlotte worked with Amber, our director, and did a lot of research into that area. And so I know that research exists, even though my sister is no longer with historic preservation. So they might be your best bet.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time and your lecture. That was just fascinating.
Well, thank you. How about before we all go, can we all say hoi? That's how we say goodbye. So it's hoi with the glottal stop at the end. So let's say hoi.